Hey guys, in this course I'm going to teach you how to build a social network using Django, Django Rest Framework, Vue 3 and Tailwind from scratch. Here you can see a few screenshots from the project we're going to build. The project is called vuejs, which is slang for bro, dude, idiot, fool, etc. Anyways, here's the feed page, here's the login page, here's the search page, and here's the chat page. I'm going to build this project without the script. The only things I've planned is the base layout of the design, so I don't have to spend too much time fiddling around with it. Before you start this course, you should know the basics of both Django and Vue. I will try to explain things as good as I can, but some parts can be hard to understand if you don't know the basics. Now that you know a little bit about what we're going to build, I want to show you a little bit of the to-do list we are going to go through. So here you can see the to-do list. This is just the base to-do list. I'm probably going to change this a little bit during this course, but as you can see here, we're going to begin by creating a Vue 3 project, setting up some static pages, create some components, and I'm going to head to the backend, configure it, and so on with JavaScript for authentication and similar. Then we're going to go through more authentication stuff, both in front end and backend. Then we're going to start working on the posts and the feed, and then we're going to make it possible to view your friends, send friend requests, update feed based on the friends you have, and similar. And then you can see after that we're going to make it possible to chat. And after that I have a little roadmap of things I want to include or implement in this course as well. Anyways, enough of this. Let's start coding. So let's just begin at the top of the to-do list. I want to create a new Vue 3 project. So let me just go to Chrome and Google how to do this. Vue 3 new project. So then I want to click this. We are going to use Vite to set up everything. So just go in here. Don't want to try this online. I want to create a Vue application. So make sure you have an up-to-date version of Node.js and then run the following command. Okay, let me copy this. And this will actually install and execute the create Vue script. So here you can see I get the wizard of creating the project. So let me go to a command line. And then here I can go into the, let me try to zoom a little bit here. CD, documents, projects. There is nothing here right now. So let me just create a folder, vuejs, and then go into it. And then here I can execute this command, npm init vue at latest. And yes, I want to proceed. So then I want to give this a project name, which can be vuejs, front end, maybe with the underscore. I do not want to use TypeScript, and I do not want to use JSX. I want to use Vue router for a single page application so that everything is loaded at once and I don't have to have any refresh and similar. And yes, I want to use Pinya for state management so we can save the user and similar in the browser. I don't want to include testing, no end-to-end testing, no ESLint. Okay, so now that was done. So then I can go into it, say npm install, which it says here. And when that is done, I can run the npm run dev. And while this is installing, I can open up the main folder in Visual Studio Code. So let me just go into documents, projects, and open up vuejs. So then I can have both the front end here and the back end. Yes, I trust myself. Okay, so now I can see that everything here is done. So then I can run this command just to see that everything is working. So if I now copy this, go back to Chrome, open up a new tab, paste and hit enter. Never translate. Okay, so here you can see that if I click here now, you will see that this changes, which is a good sign that the router and everything is working. Perfect. So if I now go back to Notion, where I have the to-do list, I can see here that the next step is to install Axios. This should be as simple as just stopping this and say npm install Axios, and then I want to include this somewhere in this Vue project. So I think if I scroll down here, I have some coding helps that I have copied from other projects I've created. Then you can see here that I need to import this to the main.js file. So if I just open up this now, source, and find the main.js. This is kind of where Vue is configured. So then I want to import this up here together with the app and the router. You can see this is gray now because I haven't used it. And then I can set the default base URL for Axios. I can set it above the app here. It doesn't really matter where I set it. And then the typical URL for Django is 127.0.0.1.8000, so it can be like this. So then when we are going to specify URLs for the API later, I don't need to include this every time. Then I just need to copy this line here as well, go back and replace the router here. So the Axios goes inside here with the router. So if I now save, Axios should be installed and hopefully be working. So that means that now I can check this and go to the next task, which is to install Tailwind. So then I can just Google install Tailwind with Vue. Install Tailwind CSS with Vue. So this is very simple to do using Vue. Okay, I have created a project, so just forget about this. Then I want to install Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. So copy this, go back to the command line, paste, hit enter, and then this will install Tailwind, post CSS, and the auto prefixer. Post CSS is something we use to minify CSS, I think. Auto prefixer, I'm not sure what it does, but here it says that we need it, so I do it. Next of them is to initialize Tailwind CSS. As you can see here, this will generate Tailwind and post CSS where we can configure where the templates and similar are. Just paste and hit enter. And you can see that these two files was created. And you can see there, post CSS and Tailwind config. Nice. So let me just go back to the next step, which is to configure the template paths. Since we are now in Vue and Vue here, then it knows where we are typically having the template. So I can just copy these 4 lines, go back to post CSS. No, not correct, in the Tailwind there. And replace the content like that and save. Then I need to add the Tailwind directives to my CSS. So it says here that I need to create a file. I don't think I have this. No, but I have a main CSS and a base CSS. So let me use the main CSS file here. So copy these 3 lines, go in here. I can just remove all of this and paste these 3 lines. The base CSS can just be deleted because I don't need it in this project. So if I save now, go back here, then I just need to start my build process. Okay, nice. So if I now go to the command line, just click up to find this one, npm run dev. So then I can try to open up this page again. You can see here you did it. Now this doesn't look as good because I removed the base CSS file, but I think if I go into the main CSS, you can see here that we are importing the main CSS file here. So if I now go back to not index.html, but app.vue, where this comes from, you can see here that we have the router view, but we can try to do something up in the navigation bar just to see that Tailwind is working. So h1 class text emerald 500 hello and save. So if I now go back, you can see here that we have a text which is emerald green. Nice. That means that now Tailwind is installed and is working. So I can check this. I can check this because now I will know that everything here is running. I can switch here and it seems that everything is okay. If I open up the inspector, there are no errors and no errors here. So I can set this task to done. Perfect. The next step then is to set up the app.vue file. If I open up that now, you can see that there are already a few things here. You can see here that do you want to install the recommended extensions for app.vue? Yes, I think this will install Volar. Okay, hopefully that is the correct one. Install, go back, and now you can see that I have syntax highlighting here. Perfect. So now everything is working here. I can try to zoom in a little bit so the font is better for you to read. This CSS can just be removed. I'm not going to use this. I can have the style tag here in case I need to add anything specific for this one. Just also want to fix the spaces. I hate 2 spaces. I want to have 4. So indent, default tab size. Okay, so then I can remove this. So I just have the router view. And then you can also see up here that I import this. I don't need any of this right now. So I can just remove the script tag for now and we can come back to that later. Same with this one. So if I now go to the browser, we don't have much here. We only have the front page. So if I go here now and open up the file inspector, you can see that inside the view we have the home view, which is one component, which is this one. So if I just here's the h1 welcome, then you can see the welcome there, and then the about page has this own separate file. Great. So if I now go back to app.vue, I want to start building the menu. So I have the template for that. So as you can see here, this is the template or the design of the project we're going to build. So I want to have this menu now. If I open up the inspector, you can see that we have the navigation bar. You can just copy all of this. Oops. Add it as HTML, and then I will go through it inside this file. So as you can see, it was 40 lines of code. So we have the navigation bar py10, which adds the space at the top and the bottom. The px8 adds the space on each of these sides. The border bottom is this one, which you also set to be gray 200. And then inside there I have a container, this one as you can see here, so it's only this wide on the screen. My screen is not very wide now since I'm zoomed in to make it easier to see, but it will only be 80 RAM width and centered on the screen. And then in there we have a flex with the items center and justify between. What this does is it makes it possible to have 3 divs next to each other on the same line, the same height, and then all of the space that these 4 and this doesn't use will be filled out here and here. And then we have the menu left, which is the div for this one. If I open up here, you see the div, which is just a wrapper for the link, which takes us to the front page. And then we have the menu center, which is this one, which is its own flex container. And the flex is used to make it possible to have these on the same line and not under each other. And then I just say space x12 to add some space between each of these, and then Tailwind will fix this for me. And then each of these inside here, I have a link, which is set to the text to be purple, and then I have an icon here. These icons are found on heroicons.com. For example, the first one is just the home. search, then you can see it here, and then you can just click copy SVG and paste it directly there. Then you can do the same thing with these other three icons, which is chat, notification or bell, and search. And then on the right side we have the menu right, which is this one with one simple link inside, and in there I just have an image which is set to be rounded full, which makes this round. This URL here is just something I use to load a static or a dummy avatar, which we are going to change later in this project. For now it's just i.prevatar.cc/40, which is the ID of this image, and I get it in the width of 70. So that's everything we need in the menu right now. So if I save now, go back to the Vite app, you can see here that now we have this menu, the logo, the 4 menu icons, and the avatar for the user. Perfect. I also need to do a little thing here. If you can see here, I have a main. This is going to wrap around all of the content. So I can just copy the classes for this one. I think that's enough for now. Main class, and then we have the router view inside there. And what this does is it adds the same spacing on the sides as you can see up here, px8. Then we have the py6, which is this space in there. And then we set the bg to be bg gray 100. So if I go back now, you can see that I have the same gray color here as I have here in the design. Nice. So that's everything I needed to do in the app view right now. So I think I can go to Notion and set this to done. Before I continue, I just want to say thanks to all of my patrons. If you too want to support me, you will find a link in the description below. And then we can start working on the next page, or the first page, which is the sign up page. If I go here now, login. So it will be identical to this login page, except it will be called sign up and have 2 password fields. So I want to make it possible to sign up with email address and the password, repeat password, and also a name field. Yes, I want a name field, email, and 2 password fields. So to do this, we can go into the views folder here, which is kind of the pages folder. Create one more called sign up vue.vue. So I like to have all of the components or these files, which is their own page, as a view. So I know it's a view file and not a single component that is going to be reused and similar. So now that that is done, I can add a simple template tag here. Test and save. And if I now try to go back here and into /signup, then this will not be found. No match found for location with path signup. Okay, so to do that, I can go into the router and find index.js. You can see here that the home view is imported this way and added to the routes down there. And the about view is lazy loaded, as you can see here. So you can kind of choose what you want to do here yourself. I like to just import everything like this home view. I'm not sure if there is a big difference between doing it these 2 ways, but this is the way I'm used to do it. So that's the way I'm going to do it now as well. So import signup view from /views/signupview.view. And then I can copy one of these paths, paste it here, say sign up. The name for the route can be sign up, so we can refer it other places in this project. And I want to use the sign up view. So if I now go back, you can see test here, which comes from the sign up view file here. Nice. So then we can begin working with the design for this. So as you can see here, I have set up a max width of 7 XL, margin X auto, so it's centered on the screen, and I have a grid, so I can have one box there and one box there. Sometimes I like to use flex for this, and sometimes I like to use grid. But in cases like this, it's very easy to use grid, so that's why I have chosen to do it here. So if I just copy these classes, I will go through it here. Div class. And close it. Oops. Yes, so I have the max width, the centering on the screen, the grid, 4 columns. This could actually just be 2 columns. I'm not sure why I have done this in the design. And then gap 4, which is the spacing between these two. And then we have one div on the left and one div on the right. So here I can say div class main right, main left, and just say left so I can test this. And this, yes, I can come back to the content, and then we have on the right side. So just copy these 3 lines, paste, main right and right. So if I save now, go back to VTap, I have the left there and the right there. Perfect. And then inside each of these, I have one more div where I have the background white, the border gray color, and similar. Let me just copy these classes. Div class. Oops. Sorry, forgot that I had the attribute there. So then I had P12, which adds space there, 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 and there. So on all of the sides. BG white, as you can see there. I have the border and the border gray 200. And when I just say border, it will be 1 pixel width. And then I have the rounded LG, so I have a little bit of rounded corners on these ones. So as you can see here, the menu is a little bit different now because we are not logged in, and I will come back to that and fix it a little bit later in this course. So if I now just type something random in here and save, go back here, you can see now that we have this white box here. Great. So in here we have the H1, which is set a margin bottom 6, so we get some space below there. Set the text to be 2 times XL in size. Below there I just have a random paragraph. You can write whatever you want. I just like to have a little bit of content there. And below there I have one more paragraph. So as you can see here, this sets the font to be bold, as you can see here. And then you have a link here with an underline clause on this one, so it's easy to understand that you can click this. So if I now go back here, you can see that we get the title, the text, and then this one. So if you don't have an account, you can click here to create one. I need to change this text since you are on the sign up now, so just say sign up. And maybe here we can just say already have an account. Click here to log in instead, which makes more sense since we are now on the page where you can create the account. So then we can continue to the form. So first I can just copy this div, since this white box is the same on each of the sides. And then in there we have the form, which I'm going to copy and then go through. So I can just copy the whole thing and paste it. Sorry, that was not working. Copy element. Yes. So I have a little form with the class spacey6, which adds space between these 3 divs, as you can see here, space and space. And then in each of these div I have a label with nothing more on it, and then input type email, your email address. This is set to be width full, so it fills out the whole entire space there. Margin top 2, so there's a little bit space up to the label. PY4, PY6, and PX6, it's space inside here. The border and border gray, I've talked about this already, and then a rounded LG for the rounded corners. And then we also have the button on the last one, which is spacing first, background, set the text to be white and rounded corners, and then the title inside there. This can be switched to sign up. Copy this and say repeat password. repeat password, repeat your password, and then one more for your name. So name, this has to be input type text, your full name. So refresh, no, don't need to refresh the design here. Then have the name, then email, password, repeat password, and the button to sign up. So that's basically what the sign up page will look like. Great. So now that we have the static page for that, I can set this task to done, proceed to the next one, which will be login page. And to do that, I can just copy this entire thing, create a new file, paste everything, and save this as login vue.vue. And here I can remove the repeat password, and I can remove the name, because we only want the email and the password when you're logging in. Change the title to login, and the title of the page should also be login. The text can just be the same, or you can change it if you want to. And then don't have an account, click here to create one and save. Then we just need to import this to the router. So first import the Vue here, login Vue from this file, copy this, paste, login, give it a name, and we want to use the login Vue and save. So now I just want to make it possible to click this one to be sent to the login page, and the other one should send you back. So if I just go to sign up Vue, then I can replace this with something called a router link to /login, and this like a router link instead of an anchor tag. So this is just Vue's link, so it's easier for Vue to understand how it will work. So if I now click here, I'll be sent to the login page. This one is not fixed yet, but if I copy this, go to the login Vue, paste it here, I say sign up instead, then this should work and I can be sent back and forth. Perfect. If you remember that we used a name here, for example sign up, we can try to use it here instead. Then we can just say sign up, but now this will not work. This will just okay, it was actually working. I didn't think it would. I like to add the colon here so that it knows that I'm going to use a JavaScript value in here. But that did not work. Okay, so remove this, and now it is working. Okay. Okay, I think if it has a name sign up, that's how you can use the name, and then the colon, like this one. Let's try. Yes, now it's working. So now Vue will automatically generate this for me. And by doing this, I can also add in extra parameters and similar if I wanted to do that. Log in. So now I have these two pages ready, and I can go back here and say, oops, done on that task. Now I want to create the static feed page. So if I go to the design, feed, I will make these files available. If you just go in the description below, you will find a link to this on my GitHub. So as you can see here now, I have a very similar design to the login sign up. You have 3 white boxes, so it's a grid, but it looks a little bit different. So we can begin with this one. If I just go back to the code here, I can start closing a little bit of this just so it's a little bit clearer. So in views here, create one more file, feed vue.vue, and then I can import it to the router just so I don't forget it. Feed vue, and then import it. Feed vue. So then that is done, and if I now try to go here you can see at least I get an error here now because the file expects there to be at least one template or script tag inside this file component. So if I just add now template, the error should be gone, and I can go to feed, which will just be an empty screen. Great, at least it's working. So then we can begin with the grid for this page. So first add a div class, paste in this one. So I set the max width and then center it on the screen, add a grid, set the grid calls to be 4 and the gap to be 4. So the gap is this between here, and since I'm now using the grid calls 4, I have 1 column for this one, 2 for this one, and 1 for this one. So it's very easy to understand how that works. So I can just copy the entire HTML for the left one and paste it here, and then I go through it. So I have the same div class as we had on the login page with the P4, which adds space all the way around inside there. The border, background white, centered all of the text in there, and then a rounded LG for this one. And then in here I use the privatar again, just like we did up here. And then I set a rounded full, so it's a round image, and the MB6, so I have some space between my name here and the image. And then the name is just a paragraph with a strong tag in there. And then I have a new div down here, which with a margin top 6, so I have some space up to this one. And then I use this flex, so I can have the space there and there. So I can have these on the same line. And then add the space x8, so I have some space between these two. And justify around so that all of the rest available space will be added there and in the middle and there. And then in here I have a paragraph with text extra small and text gray 500, and then just a static number for posts and friends. So if I save this now, go here into the VTAP, then you can see here that on the left side I have my own profile information. Nice. And then on the center of the screen I can begin by copying the class here, talk a little bit there, div class. So then I have the main, sorry for added it in the wrong place, it was supposed to be there in the same place as the main left. So this is now set to call span 2, because I want this to take 2 of the available columns. This one has call span 1, which takes 1 of the 4 columns. And then I set space y4, and that is because I want to have space 4 between each of the elements that I add in to this column. Hope I don't go too fast on this Tailwind. If it's hard to understand, then you should just try to keep practicing, and you will understand how the classes works and similar as soon as you just use them a little bit. Anyways, if I just add some random text there now, go back here, you can see that we have it there, but the background is in another box inside there again. So I can actually just copy that one from up here, add some text in there, close the div, and now I should have it here as well. Nice. Except that there I do not want the text to be centered, so I can remove it, and then it's left aligned instead. Okay, so then we can continue and build this form for adding new posts. The attach image will come later in this course. But I can open up this, then I can copy the element for the text area first. So first add a new div with a P4, so I have some space around the text area. And then I create the text area, which have the same space inside there. Set it to be width full, background gray 100, and rounded LG. And then I set the placeholder, what are you thinking about? As you can see here. And then that's it for the text area. If I save now, go back, you will see that now we have it here, just like we have it here. Perfect. Then we have one more. Let me copy this one and go through it. I know it's a little bit much copy and paste now, but it will take so much time to write all of this just to show you. So I can copy and paste now, but later when we start implementing things like Django, the authentication and more coding like that, I will write much more and explain even more how everything works. Right now I just want to set up the design so everything is working and we can get a little bit familiar with how things are connected in Vue. So now we have the P4 again down here, so I have the space around these two buttons. Border top, which is this line. Border is set to be gray 100, and then a flex justify between. So the flex is to have these on the same line, and the justify between clause adds space between these two buttons. And then in here I just have a simple anchor tag link, inline block. Since this is a inline element, we need to set inline block. If not, the margin and similar would not work as good as it should. Then we add the spacing, set the background for that button, set the text and rounded LG. And the same for this, it's just a different background color. So if I save and go back now, we have the submit form here, just as we have here. It looks like I'm a little bit zoomed in or something. There was just so much space in here. I actually think I can remove this one. Just look, yes, that looks better. So let me remove the first P4, so only these two in here have the space. Yes, that looks better. Nice. So the next element for the feed is these two posts. I have one post where the image is attached and one text post. So let me just copy one of these, paste it below this one, PG white, and then Tailwind will automatically add the space between these, since we added the space -y4 up here. So what happens now? Let me just save so we can go back here, see that it's working. Yes. And we have the div with the margin bottom 6. That's this one. So you have space between the information on the top and this image. And then we have the flex and item center and justify between, which makes it possible to have these on the same line, on the same height, and then the space available is added between these two. And then in here again, you can see that I add the same flex item center space X on this element here. So I have the image on the left side and then the name to the right. So you can see here I added a little special clause here, W dash and then brackets 40 pixels, because this is hard coded to be 40 pixels in the width. And then on the right side we have how many images, how many minutes ago we added the post. Then below I just copy the image from Unsplash. You can use whatever image you want. The clause as I added this one was W full, so that it fills out the whole post, and rounded LG, so I have rounded corners on the post. And then we have the div clause my6 flex and justify between, which is the whole thing down here. The flex makes it possible to have these on the same line, as I talked about. Justify between is this space here, and then my6 is the space above and below here. This could also be a py6 if I wanted to do that. And then on the left side, this one, we have the space flex, the flex and the space x6. Space x6 is between these two here, since we have one element here, which is this one, which is a hero icon, and then just a little helper text to tell that we have 82 likes for this image. Same thing for this one, an icon from hero icons, and the number of comments for this image. And then on the right side of this, we have a new div. And then I just added an icon here. I'm going to come back to this later because I want to make it possible to click this to get a pop-up here, so I can click report and similar. So that was that element. Let me just copy this now and make the text element below. So instead of the image here, remove that. I'm just going to look at the design to see if I did anything special here. No, it's actually just a paragraph. Lorem ipsum blah 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 and some random text. So if I now go back to the Vue app, scroll down, you can see here one more post from Code with Stein with this information. Nice. So now we have this part as well. Then the next step is the last line here, which will be people you may know and trends. As you can see here, this is not very mobile friendly or friendly for small screens, but we will come back to that later. So right now, let me just copy this one and create the right column first. So if I now scroll up to the top, I can minify the left column and minify the center column, so it's easier to see this. Div class here. So this is now the main right, which is this one. Set the call span to be 1, since it's taking up 1/4 of the screen. And space y4, because I want to have space between these. The space here comes from this gap 4 up here. And then in here, I want 2 white boxes. Copy the class for this. Div class. Top. And one more below. Bottom. So if I go back here now, we have the top and the bottom. Perfect. Then in here you can see that we have similar titles in here. So this is a H3 with the MB-6 class, so it's margin bottom 6, so it adds no space between the title and the content. Text extra large. You can just copy this and replace the content with trends. So if I go back here now, you can see that I have the title for these two. Perfect. Then I just want to show 3 hard-coded elements in here. I can copy this, paste it between this title. Whoops, that was a lot of code at once. As you can see here, we have the space dash y4, so I have some space between each of these 3. So you can see here we have 3 identical divs here with the image and the name on the left side, and then a button to show them on the right. So this is very similar to everything else we have added. We have the avatar with 40 rounded full, and then the name next to it, thanks to the flex. And then on the right side we have a button, PY2, set the background color, text to be white, extra small, and similar. So as you can see here, now we have it there. Then the last element for the feed page is the trends. So if I just scroll down, you can see here that I also used the space y4 in there, so I can copy it. And I can copy one of these, so it's not too much code at once. So it should be fairly familiar up to now. So we have the flex, the item center, and justify between, so that these are on the same line and similar. On the left side we have one element with the space x2. I don't think I need this one actually. Let me try to remove that class. I would just want to save and see. Yes, it still looks correct. So I have the text small on the left side with the hashtag, and then how many posts this hashtag has. And on the right side we have a button which is similar to the show button but with a different title. So if I now just copy this, paste it a couple of times, then the feed page is ready. So now I have a static feed page we can use later in this project. Nice. So that means that now I can set this task to done, And then we can create the static messages page. So in the file browser to the left here, we create one more file, messages vue.vue. Create a template tag. Oops, template. Template like that. And just like the Vue feed page and similar, we want to have this centered on the screen and have a column or a grid in there. We'll see if it's similar. Let me just go to the design, open up the messages file. Here you can see that I have the max width 7, grid calls 4 and gap 4. Yeah, so I have the gap 4 between these two. This one will be 1 column and this should be 3 columns. So this is very similar to the feed one, so we can copy things from there and reuse the code. But first we can begin with this one. Okay, so in here I want to have the div for the main left and the call span 1. So div class main left call span 1. Main left doesn't really do anything. It's just easier for me to understand which of the columns this actually is. And then column span 1 takes up one of the 4 columns we added. And then in here we can actually just make a copy of a thing we have in the feed. So copy this one, this line, and down to this. And then paste it in here, close the div, and close the div. I can just remove the title because I just want a list of name here. Avatar, the name of the user, how many minutes ago we talked to this user. So if I save now, go back here and into messages, then this will not load because we haven't added this to the router. So I can do that before I do anything more. Messages view, the file is messages view. And I can add it below the login. Messages, name can be messages, and we're going to use the messages view. So now we have it here. So then I have avatar, the name, and the show button. But I want to replace the show button with information on how long ago we talked to this user. I can go to the design and see what I did here. If I just inspect this one, add it as HTML, copy and paste. So it's just a simple span. Text is set to extra small and gray 500. So then we have it there. Nice. So now I can copy this just so I have a few more users I have talked to, like that. Just like the design. Perfect. And then I can add the column. As you can see for this one, that is the main center. I can minify this main left here, create a new div, class, paste it here. And here I want to use the main center, call span 3, so it takes up 3/4 of the screen, and space y4, so I get some space between these two white blocks. So first I can just copy what we did in the feed view for this text area. That's in the main center, and it's this box here on the top. Then I can just paste it in there, and I can remove this button here because I only want the post button. And instead of saying what are you thinking about, what do you want to say? Save. Let me see if this is correct. Yes, what do you want to say? Then we have the line or the border and the post button for submitting the message. So this one is a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to go through it step by step. First we add the wrapper around it. We can begin by that. So above this one, create a new div, class, paste in the classes for that. And then in here, I have one div wrapping around all of this. I'm going to copy the class for this, div class, So this is a flex column because I want this to go beneath each other. Flex grow, so it grows out the whole width of the screen, and set P4 so I get some space bit around each of these. So if I save now, go back, we'll only get this white here. So it's time to add one of these. So I can copy the entire thing. So this is a message that I have sent. So it's on the right side and it's blue. First we add one flex, set the width to be full, which is the entire thing here. You can see with the orange thing and the whole thing. Margin top 2, so it has some space or default space above itself. Space x3, that's the space here. Max width MD, so it's supposed to fill out the whole screen if I make it smaller, as you can see here. But the max width is MD, which is this width. And then the margin left is auto, so it's pulled to the right side. And then you also say justify end, just to send it to the end of this available space here. And then we have one div on the left side, which is this one. As you can see here, the background is blue, text is white and similar. So we get this box. As you can see here, we have the rounded left LG, that's these two, and then rounded bottom right, which is this one. We don't want this to be rounded since it's connected to this user avatar here. Okay, so I can copy this now, paste it below, and just remove a little bit of the text. Then you can see, like in the design, that it doesn't fill out the entire width of the screen, only what the text says there. And then the user on the left side is very similar. Let me just copy the HTML for this one. Paste it here. So as you can see, this is identical. Then we have the flex shrink 0. That's needed since it's on this side. Sorry for the avatar is a little bit special. We have the flex shrink because we don't want this to take more space than it is. Now we set the height to be 10 elements height, or whatever it's called, and 10 width. Set the rounded full and the background to be BG300. You can't see it now since we have an image, so I don't actually need this one, but I like to just have it there in case the image is missing or similar. Then inside we just add the avatar. So as you can see here, this one is this message, and then we have the avatar below the message, but this one is this one, and then we have the image and the avatar above the message. And then the message is very similar to the one we have up here. But instead of saying justify end, as you can see that we do here, we just remove that because now we want it on the left side. So that's basically how the messages will be working. So when we click one of these, the text here will be reloaded and similar. But that's of course later in this course. So now we have the static messages page. The last page I want to create now statically before we start doing anything more exciting is the search page. So the design for this looks like this. So we have a search bar at the top. We have these two just like in the feed. Here we have user results, and then below should show posts results. So we can begin by creating the file for this. Search vue.vue, and then import it to the router. Search, and search vue, and then we need to import it up here. Search vue from the file search vue. So now this will crash again since we haven't created anything inside there. So that will be the next step. So what we can do is to see which file this looks most like. and it's a little bit similar to a few of them, but we can copy these 2 lines, paste it, close the div, and close the template. So I want the grid columns to be 4, since this is 3 and this is 1. So let's begin by open up and create a div class main left, call span 3, and then div class main right, call span 1, since this is just 25% of the screen. Save. So if I go back here now, refresh, and go directly to search, then you can see here, this fills out 1/3 of the screen, and this 1/4 of the screen. Sorry, 1/4, 3/4, and 1/4. So on the search, we have this search bar on the top. The the code for this should be starting to look a little bit familiar. So we have the padding 4, flex, and space X. So this P4 is this space, the space X4 is between these, and the flex is so we can have these 2 on the same line. On the left you have input type search, and I would like to use the input type search because then we get this X here to cancel the search. The padding 4 is inside here, set the width to be full, the background to be a little bit gray, and then the rounded corners and the placeholder. And then on the right side we have a submit button, which is the inline block, padding, background, text, and rounded corners. So if I save now, go back, we have this here now. Nice. Then I can add one more of these white boxes for the user result and copy one of these. So if I just save this now, you will see that we have gotten this one. Okay. I should have a space -y4 here, so we get space between these. And then this one should also have a P4, so I have some space in there. Nice. So now it starts to look more like the design. Then I just want to create one card or element for the user. These should look familiar. Then we have the avatar at the top with some space below down to the name. And then this, which is just a copy of what we have in the feed view, as you can see here. So if I wanted to, I could just copy this entire thing and paste it in there and save. So if I go back here now, whoops. What did I do wrong? That definitely wasn't correct. Okay, let me just see what I did not do correctly. Copy this one. Sorry. This one, classes, is the outer div. Sorry about the mess. So it's the grid columns and similar, because I want to have 4 columns inside here again. So it's columns here and columns inside here as well. Gap 4 is the space between these. Rounded LG is this rounded corner, the border gray, and similar, as you can see here. The border gray is there, sorry. So if I save now, go back, then you have one element in there, which is this one. So if I just copy this now, paste, and paste 5 elements, then I get 4, and the next one goes automatically, and then I have the same space there and there. Nice. Then down here is just a random post, which I can copy from the feed view, because this is something going to be reused later. So I can copy this div here and paste it below this one. So I want to go below this div, but I still want to be inside this div. So if I go here now, then I get this post below here, and the search result should almost be ready now. Oh, there, sorry. And then on the right side, as you can see here, is the trends and the people you may now know. This can just be copied from the feed. So everything inside the main right, actually I can just copy the entire main right, go to search view and replace this div here. Save, and then we have it there automatically. Nice. So if I now go back to the to-do list, I can set this task to done. Make people you may know a component, and make trends a component, so that this can be reused multiple places much easier. So a component is a little piece of reusable code. So if I just go into source, find a file folder called components, then you can see that there are a few already. I can just remove these. This is something that comes with Vue, which are not going to be used. And I think I can just remove this entire folder. And then in here, I create one more, people you may know.vue. And as you can see here, I did not end this with a view because this is a component and not a page. So in here I can say template and go to search view, and then I can find this people you may know. If I just copy this entire div here, save, and paste it in here instead, fix the indentation and save. Failed to resolve. Okay, this still is trying to import this component. So let me go to home view, just remove this, save. Now it's working again, and the people you may know is gone. So we need to import this into the search view. So we can either use the composition API or the options API. I like to use the options API on the Vue pages, and then the composition API on the reusable components. I think that's the best way to use it. So at the bottom here I can say script, and then in here export default name can be search view, doesn't really matter. And then at the top here I need to import this component here. So from, I actually don't remember how I imported this. It's done this way. Keep forgetting this all the time. So import welcome, no, import people you may know from this file. So this still doesn't resolve anything. But let me try to use this above the trends, like that. And then something happened there. But if I try to open up the inspector, it would probably say that I haven't registered. Yes, failed to resolve. Blah, 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 blah. So I need to tell Vue that we're going to use this. So in here we say components. And then we just say people you may know. So now this is reusable. Then I can copy this, go to the feed view, paste it at the bottom, replace the name of this with feed view, and then we can reuse it here and save a lot of code like that. So now the feed should also use this one. Nice. So let me do the same with the trends. So let me just take everything there, create a new component, trends.vue, template, paste it there, fix the indentation, save and close, and then import trends from /component/trends.vue, register it, trends, scroll up and add trends here. So now we have it there, and this saves a lot of code, and it's very easy to use as well. Do it like that, add the trends here, and then we just need to import it, trends, and save. So now I should be able to go to search as well, and this is still working. Nice. So this is a very good way of reusing code. You will see more of this later in this course. But I can check these two because now these two are done. Okay, so now I want to create a toast component. And this is a reusable component, so that, for example, when we sign up, I want to have a message popping up down in the right corner saying that everything went okay. You can now go to the login page to log in, or the post was posted, or other types of notifications should become up here in the right corner. So in the components folder, we create one more called toast.vue. Create empty template. So I have already prepared the code for this. So what happens here now is that this div will only render if the store, an Axios, a Pinia store, has the value of is visible. Then we have the transition, is in, is out, delay, and the duration. This is animation clauses. This is padding clauses, fixed, and top full, so it's below the screen. 8 elements, or whatever you should call it, from the right side, rounded XL and shadow XL, so it has a little bit of shadow. These clauses comes from the store, so it's easier to manipulate if it's visible and similar from other places in the project. And then we show the messages that is stored in the store in there. So we will create the store for this very soon. And then below here, you can see here that I am now importing. Actually, maybe I should do this a little bit different and use the composition API here. So script setup. Then we can import this up here. And then we just need to tell the script to use this, return, store. I think that's it. So what happens here now is that we are importing a toast store. We're going to create this in a few moments. We initialize it, and then we return it as store. As you can see here, this variable, and this variable should be stored in here. It's a little bit hard to understand right now. You will probably understand it more when we start to use it shortly. So let's create a store for this. As you can see here, we have the stores folder, which is a folder for the Pinia stores, which is state management. So we can temporarily store information in this project that can be used globally. So in here, create a new file, toast.js. And then first, as I import, define store from Pinia, because this is what we need to import in order to create a store. And then we say export const use toast store equals define store. So this is then the name of the store, which is reused here. As you can see, we import it as this. And then I want to set an ID for this store. I'm not sure where this is used, but it's probably done in some internal things for Vue. And then we have the information we are storing in the store. MS is how many milliseconds we want to show the message. Message is the message we are showing. Clauses can be that it's a green if it's a success message, red if it's an error, and similar. Is visible is default set to false because we don't want to show it before we are ready. And then below the state itself, we have something called actions, and these actions are used to manipulate these values. And then in here, I want to create one action called show toast. So this should be able to be called from, for example, search view, feed view, and similar. In here, we pass in the ms, the milliseconds we want to show the message, what the content is, and the classes. We can tell if it's a danger or success and similar. So the first thing we do here is to set the milliseconds. Just make sure that it's an integer so it doesn't crash. Set these four information, these four variables with information we get from the function. Then we create a timeout. We create a fat arrow function and say that this classes plus equals minus translate -y 28. So after 10 milliseconds, we are adding this class here to the classes, which is again passed in here. So what happens is that after 10 milliseconds, this class is added and it will scroll up from the bottom of the screen and will be visible. Then we need one more timeout. After, for example, 3000 milliseconds minus 500, then we remove this class and just set it to be empty. The reason why I said minus 500 is that this this animation takes 500 milliseconds to run, and I can't just say minus equal this one because that would not work, so I just need to replace this class name with nothing. And the last one is that, for example, after 300 milliseconds, this is set to is visible, so it's no longer rendered on the screen. So this will set it to be rendered on the screen, but below where you can see it. 10 milliseconds later, this will be added, it will scroll up. 2 seconds later, or similar, it will go down again, and then 500 milliseconds after that one, it will not be in the DOM element anymore. So I hope you are able to follow along on this, but I guess that it can be a little bit hard to understand. In the next part, we are going to start using this, and it will be much easier to understand. So now I can just go back to the to-do list and set this task to done. And that was it for this part. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please hit like below. If you have any questions about today's code, feel free to leave a comment below and answer as soon as I can. See you in the next video.